There's really no question that there is a crime wave raging across America. There's also no question that it is changing the politics of America's biggest cities. And that's going to affect your life whether you live in a big city or not. New piece in Politico looks at that, saying gun violence is up across the country. It is changing mayoral politics. Homicides and shootings are rising, and the number of cops is down in cities from Atlanta to Seattle. Crime, as a result, is dominating the mayoral debates, as is police funding. One of those cities facing rising violence is right here in Chicago. According to the Chicago Police Department, when you look year to date, there have been 434 murders, which is similar to the number of murders in 2020 at this time, 438, although in 2020 the murders were way up. Aggravated battery declined by 7%. Criminal sexual assaults had the biggest spike. They're up 22% year over year. Here with me now, a man who knows both sides, the politics as well as the police side, Garry McCarthy, former Chicago police superintendent, and you ran for mayor in 2019, as I understand it. If the crime wave had been what it was in 2019, if there was as much crime in 2019 as there is now, do you think you would have beat Lori Lightfoot?
Well, there actually was a big uptick in crime. Honestly, if you take a look at from 2015 to 2016 was the biggest jump that we've had. Well, I got fired in 2015. And, you know, I listened to people talking about why crime is up, and they keep talking about, well, you know, the greatest way to stop a bullet is a job, and we need investment in our neighborhoods that have been deprived for so long. That's all true. But what's changed dramatically is the face of policing. Policing is now being legislated. And if you look at the Police Reform Act here in the state of Illinois, you're getting cash bail for murderers. So there are murderers who are able to put up cash bail and walk out of court.
Fair to say that the gun crimes that we're seeing across the city of Chicago, and every time, no matter where you are, New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, even St. Louis, where I'm from, especially there, you see these headlines, the number of shootings over the weekend are way, way up. Are these the same people just, you know, shooting, getting arrested, cash bail, coming back on the street, shooting, getting arrested? Is it just the cycle keeps going?
Yeah, and it's not that clear, but it's the same cadre of people. It's all gang violence for the most part here in Chicago, but the gang members commit other crimes like carjackings. Carjackings are through the roof. People are getting shot in carjackings all the time.
And the gang members all know that they can have cash bail, so the risks of getting in prison go down. This is interesting. You mentioned neighborhoods, and there's certainly a disparate group of neighborhoods in Chicago, a very specific group. And we have a full screen to show this. We don't, as a matter of fact. Least safe districts in Chicago: Austin, Gresham, Englewood, Harrison. The homicide rate was 119 per 100,000. So that, as I do the quick math, 1 in 1,000 residents is killed in 2020 in those neighborhoods. Over the past couple of weekends in Washington, D.C., we saw these shootings at Le Diplomat, which is a very famous restaurant right near where President Biden and Vice President Harris had brunch. And all of a sudden, there was this huge uproar. Is the reason things haven't changed more drastically with respect to policing is because the violence is still regulated to the poorer neighborhoods?
I don't think so, because we're seeing shootings and robberies in the Loop downtown here in Chicago. Lakeshore Drive, you see shootings all the time now. Places where, when I was superintendent, if one incident happened, you know, the world exploded. You know, what are you doing? How can you let this happen on the Magnificent Mile or in the Gold Coast? It's almost like we're numb to it now. The number of shootings in the Loop has increased dramatically. So, look, there's always going to...
Are you seeing the change in politics yet that they've seen in other cities? I'm thinking about Washington, D.C. in particular.
No, I'm seeing that we're still going further and further left. More progressive, more progressive, more progressive.
Further defanging the police.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, on a day when we had 3 mass shootings with 18 people shot, the city council was celebrating the fact that they voted in another layer of civilian accountability over the police department. They weren't even talking about the 18 people who got shot.
The person who has your job now, the chief here, superintendent here, he's blaming the local prosecutor, Kim Fox, for this. When you were superintendent, you have to think that for the chief to speak out against his boss, because you're appointed, you serve at the pleasure of the mayor, it's a little different, and he's putting his job at risk now.
Well, but he's talking about the prosecutor.
Right.
He's not talking about Lori Lightfoot. But I got to point this out. You know, in 2013 and 2014, we were breaking 400 murders going in the other direction. We're on the verge of hitting 800 this year, which is a 100% increase, obviously. We're on the verge of breaking 800. The gun laws are the same as they were in 2013 and 2014. The prosecutor is the same as it was in 2014. Kim Foxx was elected back then. So what we're not taking into account is the anti-police sentiment and the pandering politicians who are signing on to things like the Police Reform Act,
like the
giving
cash
bail. You know, another layer of accountability on top of the police. I mean, when does it stop? When are people going to actually say, this is what's happening? Well, nobody's pointing that.
Well, the Politico piece was there. We'll see if people start changing things at the ballot box. Is really the only way you could do it, as you describe the problem.
And Leland, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you just got to realize that I came up in New York City, in the NYPD, at a time when Rudy Giuliani became the mayor and changed everything.
Changed everything. So, you've seen firsthand how things can change. It's an important perspective, great perspective from New York to Chicago. Garry McCarthy, appreciate it.